The schooner Goodwill, making her initial racing voyage, sailed with the fleet in the 1953 Los Angeles to Honolulu race. In addition to the Goodwill's part in that illustrious yachting event, this filmed account documents activities aboard the schooner preparatory to the Trans-Pacific race. The Goodwill, built in 1922, has made 2 Atlantic crossings. In addition, the steel-hulled topsail schooner cruised to Tahiti and sailed around the world. She served as a Navy offshore patrol vessel during World War II and is now the property of Mr. Ralph E. Larrabee. It was in April 1952 that the possibility of entering his yacht in the Honolulu race was first discussed with the owner. At that time, Don Douglas Jr. and Bud Gardner were guests aboard on a cruise to Mexican waters. Using a rule of thumb factor of 1.5 times the square root of the waterline length, Douglas and Gardner estimated the yacht's rated hull speed might approach 15 knots. They felt, because of basically clean design and good stability characteristics, the schooner trimmed for racing might prove a record-breaking performer. Considerably larger than past entrants in the Trans-Pacific race, the Goodwill had never raced. However, after the initial discussions at Cape San Lucas, Mr. Larrabee decided to enter his schooner in the Honolulu race. Studies relating to stability, rating, hull resistance, displacement, trim, and general racing configurations are conducted. Don Douglas, Ed Harputhian, Emerson LeBombard, and Bud Gardner engineered new spinnaker poles along with other modifications and innovations. It was a tremendous job, costing a great deal of money to ready so large a boat for racing. Walt Elliott is named sailing master. Skipper Ralph Larrabee, along with Don Edler, Don Douglas, John Herndl, and Bud Gardner, select the nucleus crew. And in April 1953, all hands labor arduously on the first of many rugged shakedown cruises. The cruises definitely are not for Sunday sailors. The crew works diligently, preparing their ship and readying themselves for a voyage certain to test their seamanship. Loads to the rigging imposed by the new racing sails are studied during the tests. With the first setting of the large balloon jib, the anticipated side loads to the fore topmast caused severe bending. It became apparent that an additional spreader would be required. The shakedown continues with the main and foresails up and the number 2 and balloon jib set flying. All manner of safety gear is installed aboard. A wind speed indicator and an electronic weather vane are rigged and tested. The crewmen get invaluable practice handling the large sails. Under good wind conditions, the weather sails are tested. And with all jibs set and main and fore topsails flying, the Goodwill makes around 15 knots. Spinnaker poles designed by crew members and engineered by the Douglas Aircraft Company are of monocoque structure, incorporating hydropress frames and hat section stringers covered by an outer skin. Made entirely of metal, the unique poles are 72 feet long and weigh 1,200 pounds. They are of watertight construction so as to float in an emergency. The spinnaker poles are fabricated by Ralph Larrabee's L&F Machine Shop and transported to Newport Yacht Harbor to be stowed aboard the Goodwill. Two poles are to be carried by the Goodwill so that the large spinnaker can be jibed without taking it down, a maneuver which might save precious time during the race. Shakedown activities continue. A new spreader is rigged to the foremast. Crow's nests are installed on the fore and mainmasts to provide ease of sail handling and maximum safety for crewmen aloft. The spinnaker is set for the first time about 2 months before the race. The pole is rigged, and the spinnaker, with an area of about 11,000 square feet, is hoisted. When the stops break, all hands are elated to see the big sail flying full. A successful effort on the first try. Famous sailmaker Kenneth Watts is aboard to see the Golly Wobbler, too, set in stops and successfully broken out. This sail measures over 8,000 feet in area. Both spinnaker and Golly Wobbler are brought down in good style. The large pucker ring, designed to collapse the massive spinnaker, speeds the handling of the sail as it comes down. Near the end of June, when the shakedown cruises are over, the Goodwill is placed in dry dock. Careful calculations indicate that the ship's propeller should be removed to lower drag and ensure maximum rudder effectivity on the spinnaker run. This is done, and the resultant aperture is fair. Other final preparations for the race are carried out. The ship is trimmed by the stern about 6 inches more than design trim to prevent excessive pitching, and is lightened in accordance with design displacement. July 4th, 1953. The months of planning, practice, and hard work are forgotten in the excitement of race start day. All hands have been aboard since early morning, seeing to last-minute loading and final preparation. Each member of Skipper Larrabee's crew is trained and ready to perform his apportioned task. Goodwill is towed out of Los Angeles Harbor and casts off from the tug at 11:30 a.m. The main topsail, foresail, and weather jibs are put up. And the big schooner maneuvers on the port tack from a point west of the starting line toward a bend in the Los Angeles Harbor breakwater. Jibing in close to the breakwater, Goodwill heads toward the starting line. Coming down fast on the boats ahead and crowding the buoy at the north end of the starting line, it's a racing start for the Goodwill. With all jibs set and main topsail, main and foresail flying, Goodwill boils across the starting line, driving to weather on a starboard tack to the west end of Catalina, while cannons boom and whistles and horns blast aboard the spectator boats. Morning Star, the boat to beat, gets off well. Goodwill, as expected because of her rig, does not point as well as other boats. For this reason, an extremely serious decision must be made almost immediately after the start. Should the course be a beat to weather, or should the big schooner drive through the lee of Catalina and San Clemente? The decision is made. Sails are changed, and a course is set for the east end of Catalina. Committed now to a departure from the course taken by the other racers, expert seamanship is required to make the decision pay off. With Goodwill taking the long way around, only good brakes and fine sailing will make it possible for the schooner to hold its position in relation to the other boats. A tear in the mainsail had to be repaired at once. After working through the lee of San Clemente, Goodwill sails to starboard through the first night, heading 220 degrees and averaging approximately 9 knots. The big decision made after the start pays off for the Goodwill. Morning roll call of the fleet reveals that the big schooner is in a better relative position than hoped for after the first day's sailing. Course made good during 24 hours was 236 degrees. Distance, 198 miles. The course has changed slightly to the southwest during the second day as the wind shifts more to the north. The fisherman and foresail are dropped and the golly wobbler is set. Chafing gear, improvised from split rubber hose, is taped to the ballooner sheet which crosses under the foot of the gully wobbler. It is the responsibility of the watch and crew captains to make certain that proper safety precautions are employed at all times. Not a single injury has been sustained, but the ever-present danger aboard a large sailing vessel with its heavy gear must not be minimized. During the day, Morning Star, holder of the Trans-Pacific record and considered to be Goodwill's stiffest competition in the race, was sighted off the starboard quarter. During the night, her lights were gradually left astern. The course made good the second 24-hour period is found to be 243 degrees, distance 214 miles. Goodwill is maintaining a favorable position in the fleet. The barometric high remains in the same general location, with prospects for desired force 4 or 5 winds apparently poor, a condition extremely disadvantageous to the big schooner. The winds hold for a while on the third day, then begin to decrease. The course made good during the third 24-hour period is 266 degrees, distance 212 miles. Sailing master Walt Elliott orders a more westerly course made possible because the winds continue to veer to the north. But there is little prospect for wind above force 3. Early morning roll call on July 7th.